Go to the description below if you wanna find the fanfiction that's in the description below. Support the author. She works really hard. Or he. I don't know the gender, but they're really, really smart.
Peter?
The superhero couldn't breathe. He inhaled with short gasps. He was hyperventilating. He couldn't breathe.
Peter?
Karen's voice brought him back a small bit as she said his name again. Karen? His voice was hoarse from screaming, from sobbing, from begging his friend to return to him, to return to life. She didn't.
Peter, would you like me to call Mr. Stark?
Peter thought hard, the words taking forever to register in his brain, before he choked out painfully. Yes. He heard the phone ring and his mask clutched in his hand, and he pulled it clumsily onto his head, settling into it just as the line picked up.
Hey kid, it's nearly midnight. What's going on?
Tony sounded unconcerned. This wasn't the first time that Peter had called him this late, not even on a school night. Mr. Stark? Peter gasped. And when he heard his voice, he realized how horrible he sounded. It was painful to speak, to breathe, his throat raw from his wails. Mr. Stark, please. Please come get me. Holy shit, please. Tony asked no questions. He simply responded,
I'm on my way.
Peter sat there, unable to control the sobs that continued to rack his fingers as he clutched Shade's body to him with one hand and tore his mask off with the other. He wished on every star in the sky above him for her eyes to flutter open, for her to speak to him, for her heartbeat to start up again. But nothing came. Oh my God. Nothing would ever come. Oh my God. He stayed silent, rocking gently with Shay in place, listening as the police showed up and arrested the men still tied up below. He distantly heard the officers calling his hero alias, but he paid them no mind. There was nothing they could do, nothing anyone could do. Peter! Peter heard his name called by a familiar voice. Mr. Stark? He croaked out. Where are you, kid? Peter tried to stand, but his knees buckled the moment he did. He settled to staying down, crawling to the edge of the building near where he knew the voice of his mentor to be coming from. Peter leaned over and saw the man standing outside of his black car, looking up to the roof that the teenager was on. Mr. Stark, Peter cried. Up here. Peter! Oh, kid, you look awful. What happened? Tony smirked. Nasty run-in with the mugger? Peter let another sob fall from his lips, tears dripping down his cheeks, down his chin and off, falling to the ground below. God, I'm sorry, kid. What happened? Come on. Mr. Stark. Peter gasped. Mr. Stark, it's Shay. Shay? Peter couldn't see the confusion on the billionaire's face, but he heard it in the man's voice. Is she up there? What's going on? What happened? The bad guy, Peter managed to say. I took them all down but one. And he had me against the wall and was gonna shoot me, Mr. Stark. He was going to kill me. But Shay showed up and tackled me out of the way. But the guns, it still went off. And it shot her. And Peter sobbed, his eyes blinded by the salty drops that covered them. She's dead, Mr. Stark. She got shot in the chest. And she's up here. And she's dead. Peter took in a gasp of air and finished with a small, weak, she's gone. Tony was silent for a moment. Then Peter's hearing picked up his murmured, shit, kid, followed by a much louder, I'm coming up there. Peter heard the man get into an Iron Man suit he hadn't noticed when looking down. The thrusters pulling Tony onto the roof next to the teenager and his friend's body. The billionaire got out of his suit as soon as it landed, and he moved quickly to Peter, wrapping his arms around the boy.
It's gonna be okay. Peter, it's gonna be okay. I only knew her for 2 days, Mr. Stark.
Peter breathed. He sucked in a gulp of air and continued.
I only knew her for 2 days, and she was one of my closest friends. And she's dead for me.
Tony opened his mouth to say something, but it would never come. The universe would never know what Tony Stark was going to say to Peter as they sat there that night. Peter holding the body of his friend, while his mentor held him tight, trying to comfort the boy lost in grief. Tony Stark opened his mouth to speak, but the response would never come. Not even the universe would know what he would have said, because at that moment, the world stuttered, and it was new. Shay opened her eyes to find nothing. It was all dark. Everything was dark. Was she blind? She didn't think so. If she was, how?
Hello? 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 Hello?
Shay called into the inky blackness.
Is anyone there? 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 Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Where am I?
She felt suddenly being pulled through space, her eyes squeezing shut on instinct as the universe seemed to shoot by. When she opened her eyes again, she was sitting in water. A small layer of the liquid covered everything. The sky, a strange orange-pink color. Shay raised her hand out of the water to find that the limb wasn't wet in the slightest. Not a drop to be seen. The girl stood up slowly, her legs shaking as she did, and sure enough, her clothes were as dry as could be.
Hello?
She yelled again.
What happened? Where am I? Is anyone there?
The sky around her abruptly flashed bright orange.
Think back.
Shay jumped at the sudden arrival of a new voice, though it sounded strange, like a mix of many different voices blending together, all separate and yet all one. Think back? What does that mean?
Remember what happened to you.
This time, the sky flashed electric yellow. Shay closed her eyes and rubbed at her temples as she thought, what happened to me? I was at home, watching the Hamilton animatic, and then there was a flash of blue light, and I was in the alley, and Peter was there, and he was going to be shot. And I ran forward. I saved him. There was pain. There were stars. There was nothing. The girl's eyes flew open, her mouth voicing what she already knew. I died? The sky was red for a split second.
You died,
the voice confirmed. Then, where am I?
Unimportant. We have little time, Shay Lane.
The sky was green for a moment at this addition. Why am I here?
We took long finding someone capable of using this power. Your sacrifice was unplanned. We are giving you another chance.
A purple flash now. Another chance? Shay scrunched up her eyebrows.
Just the one. You deserve it. We believe you do. But it is your choice.
I want another chance. I do, but is there a catch? Shay had seen enough to know that there was always a catch.
You will be taken back far, far, far.
There was a green flash. Shay bit her lip. Okay. Will I remember this, though?
Yes.
Yellow. Can I take one other person with me? make one other person remember? There was hesitation before the sky was orange with the response.
Who?
Peter Parker, Spider-Man. One more pause. Then
Yes.
came with a flash of orange once more. Can I ask anything about you? Shay questioned, her curiosity getting the best of her.
In time, young Shaylane. We will show in time.
Green. But the same color returned for a moment.
In time.
As the words finished, Shay went to respond, but had no time to, as the sky suddenly flashed vibrant green over and over, the world seeming to spun around her. Shay shut her eyes tightly and waited as the world around her disappeared. All went black a moment later, and the world stuttered, and the world was anew.
We're alive! Woo! That's a relief. You thought that they could kill us that easily? No. Not until I get to go on a date with Peter Parker himself, okay? You cannot kill me before we've held hands, hugged, or even kissed, okay? I'm gonna stop. Wow, we have a cool power, though. I can't do Peter Parker's voice sad. I mean, I can't do his voice in general, but it sounds worse when it's sad. Oh, man. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. Yeah. See you next video. And I am also sorry for my horrible uploading schedule. Things have been crazy with all this homeschooling, I guess it's, because I'm in quarantine still. I mean, I think most of the world is. But, yeah, so I have to do homeschooling right now with my teachers from school. So it's kind of weird and frustrating, but we will get through it together, guys. Yes. Okay. The Bakugo X Reader should be out this Sunday, and a Haikyuu boyfriend scenario should also be out next Wednesday. So let's hope for that. See you guys later. Or hear you guys later. Type in the comments. And thank you to all the new subscribers. I love you. Woo!